How much?
Are you tired?
Been running around.
Is that cat?
Huh?
The cat out there that needs your kitty, the white kitty.
I had seen him.
So has a bell on his tail?
Doing your fursuit head construction, which is the biggest draw for the character itself. Did you want to talk a little bit about the history of materials?
Just a little bit. Just kind of put things in perspective. A lot of the sources of head building, the foam carving method came originally from a guy by the name of Sean Keller, who worked, was a hobbyist under and new guy at Disneyland. So they started by doing a foam carving of a head and laying fireflies on there. And this is how they did the heads. They were very durable, sure, for cat part. Like this guy right here, but you can see he's hard. And
he's all fiberglass.
Oh yeah. After a year of doing that, the guy came back to Sean and said, "Hey, you know, if you're just using these for just like occasional conventions, you probably should just put fur on the foam." So that's where things kind of got started there. And there are certain different schools of thought on the foam carving method. There are people who start with a block of foam, like I do, and just carve it down until it looks right, and then put fur on it.
Was anybody in the MacGyver Fursuit challenge? Yes. Then you saw.
That's what they did. They just
they
took
single
the block, cut it down into like a Labrador or some kind of dog shape, and cut loop fur on it.
It was a German Shepherd.
German Shepherd.
That's the basic history of it. You know, you can take as much effort as time as you want to get it to a certain level and a certain smoothness. The thing to note is that once you put fur on top of it, you don't have to be like perfectly smooth because fur is bulky. It's going to make any sort of sharpness.
A little duller, yeah.
Yeah, the head that they used, the MacGyver panel, was it looked like something you just like whittled out of wood really quick. And when you put the fur on, you couldn't tell.
Yeah. You want to actually go a little bit skinny on the head because you are going to get involved with the fur when you do it.
Especially on tight curves, like up in the line of the smile. This is a very important spot for this is the way I build it. This defines how the character pulling the cheek up here, so you have this really tight curve that gets filled out by the amount of fur. Oh my God! Relax! Like, come on! Dollar store.
Yeah, it's nice to accessorize. Also, putting the fluffy ears on here really can bring that character to life while you're walking around.
Oh yeah, we added an addition of secondary motion, things that move separate to yourself, like ears.
Yeah.
The concept of tails. We do that with antennas or floppy horns or something.
In this suit, I have kind of a bulky tail, and while I walk, I'm sure to kind of kick it up so it bounces back and forth.
Bounces all of that.
Yeah, but we can talk about that in body construction
Tomorrow at noon. Be there. Yeah, I will. So after the foam block method, there are a couple different diversions off of that. Foam block is most carving down from what you have. People kind of have the more idea of building up. So some people have taken to either starting with what's called the toaster head method, which starts with a sort of sheet foam curved into the shape of looks like a toaster cup. It's like sort of round like that, slap on the side, and then on top, just add stuff onto it rather than carve it down. Another alternative to that is the balaclava method. Start with a balaclava over a head model, which possibly as big as your head.
Do people know what a balaclava is?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's kind of a tight covering for your head, almost like a ski mask, but it's made out of a spandex blend.
And that's
You mean those things they use on like movies when those guys rob banks, something kind of like that?
Yeah, but not like a heavy ski mask. It's like just for, I don't know, maybe painters would use it or something like
I
that.
think it's used for diving. It's
Okay.
like a hood that, you know, it's exposing this.
Oh, you got that in there? Yeah, it's kind of just a spandex hood.
Some divers use them as a dive suits.
So you can find those at dive shops, but also online.
Yeah, I've seen them at New York Dance Wear for like $12. I'm sure there are places that sell them for cheaper than that, but that's where I get it from. You may want to wash it beforehand just to get any of the dyes and stuff out of the fabric before you start building it.
Yeah, you don't know where it's been sitting on a shelf
Also,
somewhere.
all the dyes are going to like everywhere.
That's true.
When I first started using balaclavas under husky method, I had white fur on it. I just wondered why it turned gray. It's like, oh, something. Oh,
Getting a little bit of bleed out.
yeah. So, using balaclava method, you're also limiting how there are people who, a lot of people use that method. Actually,
Yeah,
these days.
yeah.
A lot of the older established builders, I think knows that, like lots of studios.
We can tell you what they do, but as far as carving, you're kind of on your own for that.
Yeah, there are a lot of, I don't know about full-on tutorials, but people post like work in progress photos of what they're doing. And you can see kind of how, at what point you're going to be done carving it and just, okay, I can't make this look any better without spending more time on it. Just put fur on it. And with practice, you'll learn when that moment is.
Yeah.
You know, when you're done kind of carving it. But it's not when it still looks like a cube. You don't want it to look like a fuzzy dye.
No, you get that feeling after doing it a couple times. What's I didn't take enough off of here, and what's too much up here.
You can also what some people do is when they're doing foam method, you can just pin stuff to it, pin fur to it. See, you do tests of how things drape and whatnot. There are those who the bigger producers and stuff, they know that level of expertise, so they'll just go ahead and just carve everything, slap fur on the balaclava, and they'll, the way that they don't drape it first, they do a count method to find out what the pattern of the piece of fur that are going to go on it, and they use either, I think they use packing tape over cellophane,
Yeah.
and it's cover the entire head once it's done carving. Cover the entire head until it's nice and tight with all the shapes you want. You mark out where all the markings are. And once you're done with that, because it's on that cellophane, it'll come right off the head. It doesn't stick to the foam. And you can cut that apart and have all the markings of that you want and all the different pieces. Now, I believe they add a little bit of overlap just for how much is going to sew the pieces together.
Yeah, just in case you don't want a big gap in there, you'd rather have a little bit more than
I
less.
haven't done that method myself, but I see a lot of people, Latin Mixer post a lot of work in progress. Oh, here's a head I have taped up, and it's like a Fursuit head that's covered in tape. It makes sense, and something else to take note of when you do that is the way that the fur lays, because fur has a grain to it, the flow goes in a certain direction.
Up or down.
And the way that ours are remembered to do it, it's going to start at the nose and go back. So the fur on the head here is going to flow away from the nose this way and out toward the ends of the ears and back down the head. When if you're doing that tape method, you want to put arrows on it showing which way the fur is going to go, because once you cut it out and all those little pieces, like, what was that? Was that a nose or an ear? I don't remember.
You can mark them too on the back when you're doing
Oh
it.
yeah.
And then you can start putting it on the head itself using a low temperature hot glue. When we use the high temperature, it tends to melt inside the fur if you're doing a foam construction. The only thing with that is you have to use it quickly because it tends to dry right away. Yes?
Is there a particular advantage of using open cell foam over closed cell foam for these head constructions?
Closed cell foam tends to be somewhat lighter and sturdier, but it can be a bit more difficult to come by. If you're using like this L200 Scotch foam, it's sort of like the foamiest craft foam, but it comes in like half-inch thicknesses. I've seen people do heads out of that, but it's going to be more rigid, and it doesn't squish as easily. Like this one, you can just squish it because it's soft foam. And I'm not going to put it on a plane.
I've found that you can buy like closed cell phone knee pads at Home Depot for like $5 for 2 sets of extra large knee pads that made out of closed cell foam, and they'd be, because of their shape, they would make for like a great stiff ear.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that, but there's all kinds of methods of construction you can find from everyday items, really. The most important is to get the look down that you want. So, yeah.
I think one for all, Squirrel Fox has closed cell phone for the years. He does his construction out of plastic sheeting, I believe. It's in a certain pattern and riveted together, the basic form of it. He adds a little foam here and there to give it a certain roundness and shape, but the basic structure is almost the same plastic sheeting pattern.
Right.
And the ears are
Yeah. A lot of people have also started using some business
that's a
a little fleece. If you really want elements on your suit that almost look like they don't have any fur but they're soft, use a fleece material. Also, I think this is going to be shaved down too, right?
No, this is actually short.
Short pile fur?
Short pile fur. This is shaved down. Not a very good shaver, so it's a little tough. But some people, they'll fur the whole head in long fur and then just shave it down down in the muzzle.
Yeah.
In the muzzle and the face, you want shorter fur because it's going to show a lot more expression.
Right.
When you put fur everywhere, it gets kind of lost.
And if you were at the Fursuit challenge, you got to see her using, it just looks like a hair clipper that you use to shave your head and just shave the fur down.
Any question back here?
Yeah.
Is there like a particular technique for making it smoother?
There are a couple different techniques. What some people use for the big cutting will be meat cutters. Yeah, the carving knife.
Oh, carving knives, yeah.
But for the smaller, when you want it to be smoother, what I personally do is I'll just attack it with a scissor, and I will actually just sort of keep cutting at it and rolling it back and forth to smooth out an area until such time it's as smooth as it. I think that unless it's really sharp and you're really accurate with it, that you're not going to be able to get something really rounded shape. Anything that's like a complex rounded, something that isn't like round in one direction. If it's round in multiple directions, you're going to be able to do that really well with curving. It doesn't have the deep rough.
Because I usually use like flip wrappers to get it right. So I have difficulty getting it.
You need a.
Did you guys need the on board? This is fun.
I don't know. To help draw it.
Yeah, that would be useful too.
Okay.
Oh, whatever.
Carving foam and complex curves and such.
People use box cutters.
Yeah, some people use razors, razor blades from box cutters. So be real careful with those. There are utility razors as well that are used. They're the snap-off kind, but people use it without the being in the holder, and you be real careful with this.
Yeah.
It's just sharp.
Isn't there a type of a heated foam cutting knife? I can't remember the name.
Yeah, I've seen those. I just haven't priced them actually.
Yeah, I've noticed it.
they were talking about those at the Fursuit panel, and you can buy them and get them really small to use them on Mythbusters for. But the problem is, for the foam, it actually makes a poisonous gas, so you need to do it in a well-ventilated area and have some kind of
Breathing apparatus,
Yeah.
yeah.
some kind of covering.
So it kind of cuts and eats away.
Yeah, it'll just like melt right through it, and it'll make you can make like really nice fine curves on it. I've seen them use it on Mythbusters,
Okay.
but it makes cyanide gas.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, some of this stuff that, even some of the adhesive stuff, that these things will kill you after a while. Things like the, Super 77 especially.
Yeah.
Not so much the Foam Fab 74, these are products.
These are spray
spray
adhesives.
You'll really want to use a ventilator for that, and not in any closed area. Take it outside.
Right.
Gas to escape.
Always read the warning labels on anything that you use when it comes to that sort of thing. After you have the fur, you have the head furred and everything shaved down, you're going to have to go to your eyes here. These are really important because that's actually the first thing that people look at is
Your eye.
Yeah.
What is this character all about? There are ways of doing that.
Yeah, the best way or the easiest way I found is probably this method, which is bowls.
Yes.
Cheap white plastic bowls.
There's a particular kind of bowl that I think just about every builder will use just to make eyes. It's a set of 4 bowls and 4 lids. It's from Sterilum, and it's a plastic that's just soft enough that you can either heat it up with a hairdryer or a heat gun or just hot water, and you can cut it with scissors. And I've been using this ever since I started in '94, and I believe Aaron Studios does it. I'm sure a lot of the other makers do as well, because it's a lot easier to do that. The other alternative method I saw was doing vacuum form. Yeah.
Which is
Yeah, it's a bit more complicated. I've seen a small vacuum form table, about yay big. Basically, the concept is a heat element that heats up the plastic that is mounted in a square, and underneath there's a table, a small table. They cut it called table stop. It's a piece of oxide you use in an oven. You put the positive mold of the object on there, and heat up the plastic. Put it down there. The air will vacuum suck the air out from underneath the table. Until it's the shape of whatever positive mold you have. They use this for like different blister packaging.
Yeah.
And I think that's how they do the Stormtrooper
armor. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, mostly blister packing and things like that. Then I don't know about you, but after I get the eyes cut out, if you have any rough edges, I usually use a Dremel, like a real fine Dremel, and you can sculpt it a little bit more.
I'd also gone in laser, but that's
Yeah,
a little less accurate than the Dremel's a little bit cheaper. I don't own a Dremel.
Oh, yeah, okay. Then the center of the eye is a mesh material. Where do you get your mesh?
I got this tip from White Box actually. It's a sort of cross-stitching plastic canvas. There's I think it's a 14 gauge. It's got 14 dots to the inch, so it's a very fine mesh to it, as opposed to the plastic canvas you see. Maybe like
The net rugs and stuff.
tissue paper box covers that kind of thing.
Right. And you can find this at
Yeah,
like
like
Hobby Lobby or Michael's or any place like that in the knitting section. It comes white, so you're going to have to paint it.
You want to sand it down first with a fine grain, maybe 200 grain, that was recommended. But get the edges rough so that it'll take paint to it. If it's just smooth, the paint will come right on. You can also paint on it. I just added a little dot on here. Basically put a piece of paint on it and spray it around it.
Now, if you're proficient with an airbrush, you can airbrush, I also use an airbrush to do like whisker markings on the nose and things like that. But I think you just use the
Yeah, I'm just I don't know if I airbrush either. Rather, computer shop old school kind of thing.
with the eyes. Also looking at these, it's important to put your eye down in the corner, not in the smack dab center of the eye. It just looks funky when you do that. So you want to put them down in the corners and give you a much better look.
Yeah, it's a cartoony method when you've got a pupil that is anchored. When it's not anchored and it's floating, the character looks dazed. And,
Like you hit them over the head.
Yeah.
Unless you're going for that look, yeah.
Yes, Derby.
Yes. In that case, you put one up here. Once you do the eyes, you can do a little bit of personalized elements to it. I know with my eyes here, sometimes I run a little bit of a colored felt material to show the eye a little bit more. I think he's using a black material here.
Just delineate, make the eye kind of stand out some more.
You can,
It especially helps like that all white hair.
yes, you can put like a longer pile fuzzy sort of eyebrow on it, or he's got his painted on if you have an airbrush.
This is a head I had originally shot.
Yes, you do. And then a lot of people have been using hair. How'd you make this guy? Was it sort of old? Or?
Yeah, well, this one, I believe it was just a tongue of foam that I just furred up and attached fur so it in place. And that's basically it.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to put a tuft of hair on top once you're done, and that adds a little bit of character to it.
There's a piece of fur that's just sewn on here.
Yes.
What if you want to give it more like a full head of hair?
You can do that. People have done that
Yeah, there
before.
are people who've actually used wigs for furry heads. The thing to note is that when you're furring a head, if you're using a wig with the head is going to typically be larger than a person's head, so you may need multiple wigs like that.
And you might need to cut them a bit and everything. I've actually done one of my suits where I had the hair up here and it came down to the back and then I had like a ponytail on it. So you can do that sort of thing with just fur too. When you're sculpting, you want to keep in mind to try to have as much ventilation as you can. The mouth will be open for ventilation. You'll get some ventilation through the eyes. Some people, when they do the foam construction, only do the front part of the face, and the rest of this is fur. That'll let it breathe a little bit more, but it's not as kind of cartoony a look as this is.
Yeah, it's one of the advantages of the volleyball because some people actually there will be minimal or almost no foam between the volleyball inside and the fur here. It provides a bit more ventilation, but able area to radiate heat and body heat.
When you have the foam all the way in the back, and God forbid you do something out of fiberglass, it just keeps all the heat inside your head. So you won't be able to wear it as long. I have a balaclava head suit with also kind of a thin fur body, and I can wear that for hours. I can just go down, hang out for hours, and talk to people. Whereas something like Pacer or this design, maybe 20 minutes, half an hour, and then you want to go take a break.
I can go about an hour maybe.
If you want.
As long as the people.
Don't make these people pass out.
Fine. You get used to your own limits and
Right.
how
And
long is comfortable.
probably when you're seated for the first time, have a friend along with you just so you can say, hey, you need to lead me back somewhere where I can get a drink and everything. Especially if you have a heavier kind of head that'll keep
These things. That's why they use foam for insulation.
Yeah, keeps the heat in. Now I know with Baron sometimes you put like welder's glasses on it.
Yeah, it's just an accessory for the character.
I've seen people use like shower rings as like earrings on the side. They came out pretty good. There's all kinds of material that you can just try. If you go through a Home Depot and you say, that would work pretty well for this, give it a shot, it just might. I know a lot of people have been using, like for their noses, there's a product called Tool Dip, where they use, it's basically kind of like a spray adhesive, and you get your nose and you can spray it and it turns it into a rubberized material. So,
Is that actual dip?
or you might be able to, I haven't actually used it,
Yeah.
but
You can dip things into it and the latex will latex and rubber will adhere to the object and will dry and have a rough
yeah,
shape.
it gives you more of a shiny nose, but if you're doing tuning, you want more of a soft nose, you know, felt.
You can also go with, this is stretch PVC. It's PVC attached to spandex, and it provides a nice shine to it, but it's also squishy. It's plush. You're not afraid to bump it.
Be very careful when using stretch PVC. If you get it wet and it stays wet, the PVC will start coming off of the backing. So you want to be really careful with that material, or it's going to just start separating and flaking off, and then you'll just have kind of a weird spandex looking nose. Yes. Oh, did you? Oh, okay. Anyone have any questions? Yes.
As far as big blocks of foam, where do we get them?
What I usually get mine from Joanne Fabrics. They have blocks of foam or sheets of foam up to 5 inches thick, and the head is typically 11 inches high. So I just take 2 slabs on top of each other, add a bit on the top, and I've got like the block facing I need.
Now we did see in the Fursuit MacGyver challenge that they brought in a block of foam that was like yay out of the box.
He has like a 2 foot by 2 foot by 2 foot thing.
Yeah, I've never really seen one put together like that. I use his method where I get a spray adhesive and put a couple blocks together. If you find that, great. Then you don't have to glue 2 pieces of foam together when you do it. Just yeah, well ventilated area when you're using that stuff.
Now, which spray adhesive do y'all recommend?
There's the 77. And
Yeah, I think there's foam adhesive, foam fast 74. There's different generics on that. I think another place to get foam actually is at
like furniture.
yeah. There's a
or
place.
finishing places.
There's a place in the Bay Area called Bob's Foam Factory. They just do all sorts of industrial foam, furniture, upholstery foams, and cut things into shape for you. You may want to find an upholstery place like that. There's a place in LA, Burbank, called Foam Mart, and get the same thing there. They just do all sorts of industrial and furniture type foam.
And again, if you live in a big city like Dallas or Houston, you're going to have more available to you than the smaller cities. If you're in a smaller city, at Joann's, you can find it. Usually they use that kind of foam for seat cushions, and you just glue it together, and it works just fine. I know that, do you also draw your head onto the foam block when you do it?
Sometimes. The problem with that is that when you start, if you draw it on all sides and you start carving down from one side, you've just shaved off the drawing on the other side that you've done on the perpendicular side. So I kind of have to visualize things in my head. And I've seen people actually do 3D models of he does a 3D rendering of the head, and I think that what he does is he forms his head out of sheet foam that is attached together based on the polygons that he modeled his head on.
You just lost the on.
I followed everything that you just said.
Cool. There we go.
For me, carving out of the single block is difficult because I get lost after I start carving. I prefer the additive method because it's like, oh, this doesn't look big enough. Let me put a little bit more on there. It's a lot easier than shaving it down. When you shave it down, you could get that area where you're like, I think I took too much off. But you watch some of the professionals do it, and they can carve it up real quick, and at the end you go, wow, that looks like it's supposed to look. Why doesn't mine look like that? Why does mine look like a giant block? I've also known people other than the Molotov that use some of this mesh material inside?
Yeah, there were people doing heads out of plastic canvas. That was
Yeah.
one of the previous methods. But I think that people found that the plastic would get brittle over time. And,
Yeah, snap.
Yeah.
Yes.
How much like room do you leave for your head?
Yeah, and really like the curves that want to get everything pretty accurate.
I actually know how to hand sew. I think a lot better than use a machine, so I tend to go by hand.
Okay, so since you're going to be putting the food down anyway, how do you sew it in a way so that you can't see the seam after cutting it?
What typically people do is sew them from the inside before
Yeah.
you really drape
Like you
them.
have the furs facing down, and you sew right along the top there, so the seam's inside. And when you flip it out, you're less likely to see the seam.
Okay, because that's usually what I do like this one.
Yeah, if you put it together with the fur sides out like that and sew it across it, so you're gonna see the seam.
It gets pretty tight in the outward facing areas. Like when I was trying to do the inside of the mouth here with the different trim, you can kind of see the seaming on here, but with the longer fur, you won't be able to see the seam. You can see from the inside, this was all hand sewn, but from the outside, you can't see it. The shorter the fur, the more difficult it is to hide the seams. I've seen people do faces out of fleece, and it becomes really tricky to do that without showing the seams.
Yeah. Then it becomes okay if you get really up on it. Do you see it then, or do you see it from across the room? You might get the look you're going for, but still, if you get really close, you might see, okay, there's where the seam is. Yes.
I've seen some the more realistic fursuit shapes. What do they use for those eyes? They almost look like they're like glass or something.
Sometimes people actually use taxidermy eyes.
Yeah, or typical taxidermy catalog, or some people will actually make them out of, I think it's out of half spherical forms, and they paint on the inside or underneath.
Is it those like little things that you get for quarter?
I've seen people using that kind of method.
It looks too round.
Initially, yeah, that
Yeah. You wouldn't want to go much smaller than I'd say 40 millimeters. You can usually find Christmas globes. They're
Like a
they're like
plastic
paint it yourself Christmas globes. If you look online, do a Google search. The smallest I found, 40 millimeters, probably. I mean, that's still bigger than your actual eyeball, but any smaller than that, it's not going to look great in the head. 80, depending, if it's toonie, a standard 80, and you can find those at Joann's Fabrics too, and those will look fine for a bigger head.
However, if you're going for ultra realistic, if you're doing like a realistic wolf or a werewolf or some sort of monster suit, you can get that desired effect by taxidermy jaw sets and taxidermy eyes.
one of the disadvantages with the taxidermy sets is